I had to be on holidays for all the interesting news. So the big story of the week is that Endor AG, the owner of Fanatec, has filed for insolvency. Fanatec's implosion, of course, started when I interviewed Thomas Jäckermeier back in October of 2023. Of course, I am kidding about this. Fanatec's downfall has been growing up, has been brewing up for the last few years over some management decisions they have made. Some of them didn't make sense at all, and others we are now discovering it. But there's more than meets the eye besides all the communications going around. Everyone will have their speculation, so here's a few of mine as well. I'm assuming that everyone in this conversation, no matter who they are, if they're official or if they're Thomas Jäckermeier, they're going to have their vested interest in this situation. And of course, for me, there will be unreliable narrators. They will, elevate some part of the narration and put some parts down so the story goes their way. For the announcement says that the Starug has failed. The business operations will continue without restrictions. There will be open-ended process for taking over the company and foreign companies not affected by this insolvency. The attempt to restructure Endor NG under the Corporate Stabilization Restructuring Act failed. The reason for this was a request by the former CEO and majority shareholder to convene an extraordinary general meeting to prevent a restructuring under the Starug without presenting a reliable alternative scenario. At the same time, negotiations with the majority shareholders on a financial restructuring involving all shareholders have been taking place in recent weeks. However, these negotiations have to be broken off without results due to unrealistic demands. The strategic investor Corsair then decided to not make any further payments from the bridge financing as the ongoing disruptions made restructuring under the Starug impossible. The lending banks also refused further financing due to excessive indebtedness. Now, for you as a customer, this is the most important. During the insolvency proceedings, the Endor AG will continue to operate its business as usual. Sales and warranty and repair services will continue without restrictions, and customers will continue to receive driver and software updates. So this means if you want to buy stuff, there will be stuff there. I wouldn't recommend it to buy any stuff, but if you have warranty, you can do the warranty claims. Now, there are a few quotes over here that will be more on the business parts. Once again, I'll be injecting my own sort of speculation in here, and this will be about the Starug being presented with options from the previous CEO, Thomas Jäckermeier, and they aren't in reality for the Starug not a reliable alternative scenario. This is the part where we're going to read from multiple sources, and we're going to read from Thomas Jäckermeier, because it gives us a fuller picture. It doesn't mean that the picture is any sharper, because I do think that both parties or all parties in this, including Corsair, are leaving something behind that they aren't telling everybody. So Thomas Jäckermeier says at the Wall Street Online Journal, or the German one, that we have continuously brought in powerful investors. All of them were rejected by the Corsair-friendly boards. Just yesterday, Mr. Von Buren renewed his willingness to buy the property once again and renounced the Swiss CIC, as asked for access to the data room because it wants to replace the banks. Now, this is interesting, where we're going to have somebody here, a third party, buying the property, because in the same insolvency, there is an indication, which is true, that some of the choices made by Thomas Jäckermeier were wrong and did impact Fanatec, including the oversized new building for the company headquarters, incorrectly calculated chip in goods order that led to high depreciation requirements, and millions of euros worth of failures in implement processes and systems. This is interesting. This is basically the Starug saying Thomas did tremendous damage towards Fanatec, and Thomas here is at least bringing, at least for him, a solution, which is part of the problem is the company headquarters. We can sell it to somebody that may rent it to us. Inherently, it would basically clear part of the debt, that would lift some of the issues. But other things here: incorrectly calculated chips in goods order that led to high depreciation requirements. Fanatec had a lot of trouble with chips. That was the reason. Basically, up until 2023, they had no stock at all. They couldn't sell it. They could sell anything. It's not because they're trying to make you buy the DD1, like I've heard that going around many times over. Is that basically they didn't have chips because, well, they couldn't calculate it, the orders correctly. They ordered from the wrong place. And I've talked to somebody in Fanatec a few years ago that they were trying to find multiple sources for chips, including a factory floor that would be exclusively for them. And then we're seeing more and more stock coming from Fanatec. But, being late has a cost. And then all of these wrongly calculations will also have an impact, and also issues with quality control that completely tank the value of the company or creates a lot of money in wastage. It is totally expected that the Starbucks would reject this because it might not be a holistic solution for them, or they don't trust Thomas Jägermeyer by any chance, and they just want to find a third-party solution. That could also be the case. In this case, I really wouldn't blame them. You want to close a page and open a new one and all of that. If you enjoy a good sim racing conspiracy theory, this is the part of the video for you. I'm going to inject my own sort of speculation and analysis that likely is totally wrong, because this process has been so opaque from the start and everybody is so one-sided that it's unlikely that my analysis is correct in any way, shape, or form. However, the information that is available right now, kind of steers at least my conclusions this way generally. This is something that has been in my head since the start of the Star Rogue process, since the beginning. It's kind of weird that Corsair and the Star Rogue has directed the insolvency process or the takeover process in a way that completely wipes out all of the shareholders. Generally, I'm not big on shareholders. Actually, I'm not big on shareholders because they all the time. They don't add anything. They don't add the ideas. And then when shit goes wrong, they always cry about it. This is exactly the same case. In everything, we need to put some context. And the context of Fanatec is that they are very highly indebted, which is the truth. And they also have one of the top positions in the sim racing department. In sim racing, they are the mid to high end leaders. The low end is more Trustmaster and Logitech. But they basically have a very strong position in the market. They have a brand that is recognizable. It's on Formula One Esports, is on SRO and all of that stuff. So it is kind of weird with all of the IPs, with all the brand recognition, a good revenue source, 100 million a year, which is more than what they owe to the banks. It is kind of strange that the Star Rogue process has been directed to basically destroy the position of the shareholders. It's like saying that they were setting themselves up for failure. At least this is my reading. And then there's another part that I find completely weird that gives some credence to Thomas Jägermeyer, and he's complaining about it on Wall Street Online Journal. As predicted and feared, Corsair has now brought about insolvency because Corsair already has the trademark rights and does not attach any importance to the Landshut relocation. So, reading this, if it is the truth, and we have another snippet of information that is quite interesting as well. If we go to the European Union Intellectual Property Office, we have an image of McLaren GT3 wheel. That is basically something that we all know about, and it's basically up there. And it's, a steering wheel that we all know about. And if we go below here, it's an electronic input to computer device. And then owners, Corsair Components Limited. It's not Fanatec. It is not Endor. It's Corsair. Because all of this has been so opaque, we do not know if the Star Rogue process said you only get all of this if you complete it. But if you're not completing it at the moment, you can keep all of this IP. But if you do not complete it, it reverts back to Endor. We do not know that at the moment. Or if the Star Rogue process says, I think we're going to buy this, so we're going to give you all the IPs from the beginning. So adding 1-to-1 with also the information from Thomas with a big train of salt, train load of salt, you start to see a situation where the Starrug was either incredibly naive or not very good at managing the situation, or if you're going for the conspiracy theory, that they steered basically this to Corsair to buy it. Corsair adds what they wanted, according to Thomas Jägermeyer, and then said, well, we just paid enough for what we wanted, and now we're going to bail out. So somebody got something out of this, and nobody knows who it is. If it's Thomas Jägermeyer that can try to reacquire the company once again with an angel investor that he says he has 1 million of them, if it was the Starrug process that they're going to be paid on the board of directors, or if it's Corsair that they were basically able to do the sticky hands on the IPs and bail out without paying too much. All of this is incredibly stinky. And it is really not that good. I know a lot of people will be saying, oh, good riddance to bad rubbish to Fanatec. But I want to finish this video on this. There's a really good movie called Charlie Wilson's War with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tom Hanks. It talks about the American influence on the Afghan-Soviet war back from the 1980s Cold War. Excellent, very good movie, highly recommended. At the end, the character portrayed by Philip Seymour Hoffman is explaining the unintended consequences of the Afghan-Soviet war with the influence of the United States by explaining the story of the Zen Master. Essentially, the Zen Master is unintended consequences, and we're always saying at the end of something, we will see. A lot of people are saying this is a good thing that Fanatec will disappear from the market, but you have to put everything in context. Fanatec is essentially the only mass market Western company that deals with the mid ends of the market that also has a very wide appeal. So if everybody is saying Fanatec disappearing one way or the other is good and leaving everything else to companies in Asia, I'll have to say, we'll see.